Hello and welcome to Drive and Double Feature Podcast. I'm Nathan,
I'm Ryan.
and this is the podcast where we talk about two movies week every Tuesday and Thursday. But before we get into today's episode, you should check out our Patreon over at patreon.com/Drive and Double Feature Podcast. We do bonus episodes over there, and just for $5 a month, you get access to those and you help out the show as well. But no main show content is locked behind Patreon. But getting into today's movie, we are talking about the last horror film, aka Fanatic, as Tubi calls it. I think Tubi it says Fanatic, aka the last horror film. So whatever you find it as, it's from 1982, and it's directed by David Winters. So I picked this movie not knowing a whole lot about it, but I just like Demon Lover. I read the plot synopsis and I was like, oh, this sounds like a lot of fun. It's a slasher movie set at the 1981 Cannes Film Festival. Yeah, that's what we get. We get Joe Spinell as a slasher, and who we talked about before, right? I think this is our third movie with him in it, even though we never said he was in Losing It. I don't think we mentioned that on the show.
No, we didn't. No.
Yeah. So
Well, so wait, he was in. No, wait. This is our fourth.
really our fourth. Okay.
Wasn't he in Nighthawks also?
He was in Nighthawks. You're right. Yeah. So Nighthawks, Cruising, this
We,
and Losing It. Wow. And then it also co-stars Carolyn Monroe. He is in two movies that we've talked about before. Did you know that, Ryan?
I did not.
Yeah, she actually makes a cameo in Casino Royale, and she is also in
Hmm.
The Spy Who Loved Me. So two James Bond movies.
Well, I knew about. Okay, so now that you said that, I knew that I didn't know about the Casino Royale. Man, she
Yeah,
must
make
have been a huge role in Casino Royale.
yeah. If you look at her role in it on Wikipedia, it is uncredited. She is guard girl. But what's weird about that movie is like that movie has a whole bunch of uncredited like cameos and stuff like that. Anyway, well, which actually connects to this movie. This movie has a lot of uncredited cameos in it, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, yeah, it does. I'm
Hmm.
I'm wondering how many how many women like because it's in France and they're all topless. How many like consented to be like topless in this movie, and they're just filming
Yeah,
them?
I was thinking the exact same thing because this movie uses a lot of I guess it's guerrilla style filmmaking, a lot of just shots of actual like people at the film festival, a lot of shots of just promotional stuff, and of course there is a topless beach in front of the hotel, and they just have random shots of that throughout the whole movie. It really has it all.
Yeah, it does. But
Yeah.
probably my favorite part is all the little movie cameos from other
Yeah.
famous movies.
See, that's I really enjoyed my time with this movie, and I think it was mainly because just like as a movie nerd, I love just looking at everything. I actually it was really cool to see oh
I know
god.
you like movies.
Yeah, come to find out I like movies. I know I've been talking on this show for over 200 episodes about movies, um but I really liked that because they talked about this in the James Bond behind the scenes of the giant for your eyes only like poster that was in front of the hotel where you had to walk between the woman's legs. It was so cool to actually see that in the movie, and it's in so many shots because that post that whatever poster billboard is giant.
But no, yeah, I that was like a humongous poster. I was like, oh, there it is.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a bunch of stuff. Like there's some really cool ones like polyester shows up at one point, the French lieutenant's wife.
Possession.
Yeah, possession. A lot of really cool stuff. But this movie is it's so odd. It's about Vinny Durand, played by Joe Spinell, who specifically loves one actress, and that's Jana Bates. And he takes a trip as a New York taxi driver on that salary, and he goes to the south of France to go to the film festival.
So a loner taxi driver from New
Hmm.
York City that has an obsession with a woman.
Uh-huh. And you know what's funny is Joe Spinell is in Taxi Driver too. Yeah,
he was just sitting there watching them film Taxi Driver. Like
yeah.
I could play that part, no problem.
I guess what's funny is this one takes a more comedic approach to that. I don't know. I don't know if this movie's outright a comedy, but it has really silly moments throughout it.
There's some pretty off the wall moments, just like
Yeah.
that they just throw out there. For the most part, I would say it's not a comedy.
No.
But it's just like I think they thought like, oh, this is so weird and creepy, but it just came off more like odd more than
Yeah.
anything.
No, I totally agree. It has like this. It has a really weird mood to it, and I mean, it kind of threw me off from the beginning because the opening is Lloyd Kaufman's name shows up, and I was like, "Oh, is this a trauma picture?" And I guess it has that connection, which is, and I think Trauma's known for more like going towards a comedic edge with their horror. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, once he lands in France, after having dreams, I love his director persona, wearing like a huge hat and like a white jacket, hold an Oscar. Yeah, Joe Spinell held an Oscar at some point.
Now, I wonder if any other directors do that. They just walk around set with their Oscar.
I wouldn't be surprised. I'm sure there's some directors that just like have it just to like if they get in a fight with an actor and hey, look at this, okay?
Yeah, you want to argue? You want to argue with this guy?
You want to argue with Oscar, huh? Yeah, I mean, and then when we get to France, I think that's when it gets really interesting. This movie has so many filler shots, and I don't think I cared about the filler shots. I could look at it all day long.
No, I just thought it was interesting. Just, I mean, I could have just that been fine if this movie was just like, oh, just
Yeah,
completely like candid, like documentary of 1981's Cannes Film
yeah.
Festival.
Which is a really weird year because I wanted to look up like, oh, what won that year, and it was a Polish movie that won. I'm forgetting the name right now, but yeah, it was just a Polish movie that won. I've seen the poster for, but it wasn't a big year. But what was big was Chariots of Fire was playing that year, which would go on to win Best Picture. So,
What a
um,
shame.
yeah, what I love is what did Chariots of Fire beat really quickly? Oh, it beat Reds. That was like the big like shocker, I think.
Didn't Reds like not win like almost every like it lost like almost everything
Yeah, I think it won Best Director. Yeah, it won
and
Best Director.
best supporting actress, I think.
Yeah. Chariots of Fire beat Atlantic City, On Golden Pond, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and
Uh
Reds. Yeah. So that's a pretty big year. But yeah, I love that Jana Bates here gets set up as like some whirlwind actress because in a really silly scene they have a panel of judges watching this crappy horror movie and they have this
yeah.
big voting card of who to pick best actress has like
Oh,
Meryl Streep on it.
it said Meryl Streep, Jane Fonda, Faye Dunaway, and Jana Bates.
And then just a big pin circle Jana Bates.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the whole time this movie, they're like, "Oh, this is the first time a horror movie has won at the Cannes Film Festival," and I think that's funny.
Well, then, but the girl, I can't remember her name, the girl that was in Possession, she actually did win that year.
Yeah, so it actually was a big year for horror.
I was gonna say, do you remember the name of the movie that Jana Bates was in at Cannes? Did you?
I don't.
You don't remember?
I don't remember. What is it?
It was Scream.
That's right. It was Scream. Yeah, which is funny because this movie kind of reminds me of Scream in a way. It's not like hardcore like it, but it's like poking fun at horror in a way.
Yeah, kinda.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I just thought it was funny. I'm like, oh my Scream. But you're right. Like the horror movie they're watching, it's just literally like a guy holding a blowtorch to a woman's face, and she's just screaming, and they're like, this is a fantastic performance. Like I cannot I can't believe she turned in such a great performance for this. Like,
Yeah, that people are just amazed by this, which is so silly. This movie had me interested in just looking things up. There's a lot of scenes that happened at the Star Theater. I just kept looking at this theater. It was really cool. It was like playing Cannibal Holocaust. That was one of the posters there.
yeah.
Wow. Um, but I'm guessing that's where like grindhousey type movies played. This had nothing to do with the festival, but this theater is open to this day. I just saw a picture of people waiting around the block to see the Avengers in that theater.
So that's in France.
It's in France. Yeah, that Star Theater is actually in Cannes.
Well, I thought it was like a big, like they did have to do with the festival because Joe Spinell runs into the director, and I thought he ran out of the Star Theater, and and the director was like, "Oh, were you in my movie premiere?" And he's like, "You're disgust," like that scene. So
Yeah, no, I remember that scene. My thing is just I couldn't, because what I was interested in was seeing if that theater had anything to do with the festival, and I almost think that the movie sets it up it's that way, but that's not actually what it's like in real life. That it actually has no connection. Like they probably couldn't film at the actual film festival, so they filmed it at some crappy theater.
yeah,
Yeah.
you mean to tell me they didn't get explicit permission to film this?
No, no, I don't think so. Even though I can't believe they got away with it. They filmed some famous people. I think Chris Christopherson. They just have like candid shots of him. The guy from Eight and a Half. His name is escaping me right now. Um, he shows up, and they have just shots of him like at a press conference talking. And I don't think he. Do you think he ever knew he was in this movie?
I'm sure he signed a release form.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure they made sure to get a release form for everybody. Um, but this movie is kind of a weird slasher plot where the movie really makes you think that Joe Spinell is going around filming people without their permission, which he is doing, and there is a bunch of murders happening along the way. All the people that are kind of blocking him being around Janet Bates.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, this movie actually reminded me a lot of like King of Comedy, I thought,
yeah, yeah, for sure.
because he was just kind of like this loner type of character that was real obsessive, and he just wanted his one opportunity to like make a movie. And like you said, pretty much everyone that was like in his way, like Janet Bates's like ex-husband, the director and the movie producer, just like
Mhm.
all these really like influential people that was in her life that he was trying to like stop. And the movie, kind of sets up like, oh, Joe Spinell's crazy, like he's murdering all these people,
Mhm.
and then filming it, and he keeps saying he's making his movie. And I really like it too because there's also scenes where he keeps calling his mom and telling him like, "Oh, mom, like they love my movie. They're so excited. I'm getting questions constantly." And he'll be like, "Hey, right over there. Yes, I'll be right there."
Mhm.
And it's like, "Yeah, mom, Jana's real excited to be in my movie."
Yeah, she's excited to be. Yeah, I like that too. No, there's actually a lot of funny moments, and I think the movie becomes funnier with the ending too, which we'll get into a little bit later. I feel like the ending to this movie is kind of a trip.
A
Um,
little bit, yeah.
yeah, but no, I like just seeing him follow around, call his mom, just run into these people, thinking he's making like some work of genius. Like I really need to work with her. I got a great script, and of course nobody's gonna listen to him. But there's a one really fun death scene where Jana walks in on her like agent, and this dude's head is completely cut off, and it rolls
That,
off. Oh, go ahead.
that was her husband.
Oh, that was her husband. Sorry, her husband, and his head completely rolls off and lands in the sink, and it like lingers on it for a while. And I guess that's one thing. I'm not sure what we watched But this movie was considered lost for a while, or at least scenes from it were considered lost because it was an extremely gory movie, and they actually took out a lot of it, didn't know where it was, and it was found actually in 2023, the whole movie.
Where?
Let's see, at some insane asylum.
Oh wow, right next to Passion of the Joan of Arc on the show.
Yeah, it looks like it was found at some French film archive. Interesting.
They left a copy there in Cannes.
You know what? Probably I would have loved it. It would have been like, imagine going to Cannes one year, 1982. It's playing there. It's like watching like old vacation videos. Like, oh yeah, I remember that.
That is probably like, I know you're saying earlier, but like somebody watching this movie, like, wait, there I am. I was in Cannes last year. There I am in the movie.
Yeah, wow, they did this without my permission. You know,
I love it. But no, as far as like the performance goes, I do like Joe Spinell in the movie. I will say the they try to get him to do some like really heavy like emotional moments where he's breaking down, and it's like it's kind of rough. I'm not
yeah,
gonna lie. Like I'm like, okay, maybe you're not really suited for
that's
emotional scenes, but like being creepy and angry, I mean, you're doing really well. But when you
yeah.
trying to like crying or whatever, like he's doing like a scene where he's like crying to his mom, and he's just like, "Oh, mom," like
Yeah.
like that.
No, I totally agree. I think he's awesome. Like whenever he's creepy following people, when he's crying, which he has multiple crying scenes, they shouldn't have done that. It's so bad. Like there's that one scene where it's really good. He's holding Jenna up at like a with a broken bottle, like we are gonna do something together after breaking into her apartment. And there's a part where he starts crying, and it's the fakest thing you'll ever see. Like this man just has never cried in his life. Um, yeah, and I saw a lot of stuff about people praising his performance, and they must have only seen like 75% of his time in
No,
this movie.
yeah, I mean, I would say there's a lot more good than bad. So I
Okay,
mean,
yeah.
I would give it some praise, but it's not an all time classic or anything. It's
No, no, and
uh,
nobody really is giving like an amazing performance. I do love his mom in this movie. She's so bad, but I don't know.
okay.
Yeah. Oh no, no, I'm not saying she's good. Yeah, I just thinking she's so bad that she was making me laugh every time she was on screen.
Well, it's clearly somebody's mother. That's
Yeah, yeah. It's like when
like,
Marty puts his mom in a movie.
yeah. So like, I thought there was somebody crazy. Like they just probably got like somebody's mom or whatever. But they did say like the scene at Joe Spinell, like that was actually like Joe Spinell's like real apartment
Really?
in New York. Yeah.
That is funny. I wow, he living nice, huh?
Yeah, living
I
with
mean, it's New York.
maybe that was Joe
Could
Spinell's.
could you imagine if that was Joe Spinell's mom? That's probably cheap labor, honestly.
Probably so. But she is funny though, because she's like
Mm-mm,
she's not buying any of this at all. Like he's talking about how like
nothing.
he's going there. He's like, "What, Benny? What are you talking about? Like, why don't you just come home? Like that doesn't make."
That is his mom.
Oh no.
That is his mom. That is so funny. Yeah, she's credited. She's Mary Spinell. Um,
So, oh my god, maybe he was living with her.
I probably was, and it's like, well, I can't do this unless my mom's in the picture.
I
Uh,
guess maybe that explains their awesome chemistry.
yeah, I can't wait to talk about the final line of this movie, which comes out comes out of left field. I guess like to give away the ending, and we'll go back and touch upon some stuff, but I don't know. It took me like I thought he was the killer the whole time, and then come to find out he didn't kill anybody. I mean, he wasn't a good person, but it was a surprise.
I thought so. There was like I didn't think I assumed at first he was,
Yeah.
but then as the movie was going on, there was a lot of POV shots,
Hmm.
and like like there's like person in black gloves, and like whenever they see one thing I really thought was a nice touch was the killer, whenever they want to go after somebody, they would have like a film reel, like film grain, and like they'd just
Yeah.
take like a little like a little etch knife or whatever, and just like circle or cross them out, like this is
Yeah.
the next I thought that was really creative, but I was saying like that person had like black gloves on, or when somebody did get murdered in the movie, you didn't see Joe Spinell's face. And I'm like, because I was thinking,
Hmm.
I was like, well, if he was going to do that, they would probably show his face, or like we would see something. But then again, I'm like, well, he's filming a movie, so maybe he was trying to look like the killer wasn't being seen. So I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess the hints were always there. But he really just wanted to get a movie made. I mean, he still chloroformed Jana and kidnapped her to go to a castle to make a fake Dracula movie. But that's all he wanted to do was just get her in a movie. I mean, directors have done crazier things.
He chloroformed her, he he tied her up, and then like and then he fake stabbed her in
That's
the
yeah.
movie,
Hmm.
and you're supposed to think that he stabs her for real, and he was like, Jana, your performance was amazing, and it just like she was sleeping the whole time.
Yeah, I love that. And then come to find out, it's somebody completely different doing this, somebody completely deranged. I actually, I'm not gonna lie, I had forgotten who this character was at the end of
What?
the movie. I did. I was like, who are you again? It's like, I don't know, people were starting to mix together. Like, I think that dude looked exactly like somebody else in the movie, and I was like mixing them together. The final scene is Joe there watching his movie with his mom, is like, Mom, wasn't that great? And then she has the most like weirdest lines where she says, I think she goes, "Do you have a joint?" And then he passes a joint to his mom, and that's how the movie ends. Uh,
It's a nice little scene,
yeah,
but
it ends with comedy.
so the thing is I thought like what the moment was going to be was uh that Joe was going to save Jana, and he was going to be like this big hero character,
Hmm.
like like, oh, like he rescued me type of thing. But and like it does show that he's like not the most mentally stable guy. So
No,
because leading up to this, he starts having like these mental breakdowns a little bit. But then like when it comes to this, you think like he's totally devoted to Jana, but he like when the killer does show up, he like just like throws a a cloak over him. He's like, Jana, run, and he runs off. Like he leaves her there to get murdered. And
I know.
oh, and I mean, eventually he does come back and he does kill the killer,
Hmm.
and that's he's but it just kind of pans out and it's revealed that that was in the movie. So I'm like, it's kind of like this weird trippy scene because you're like, wait, what did he actually go and film this movie, or was he
Yeah, I agree.
or is it like he got somebody to film like him murdering this person and he was able to get the footage back, or is it just kind of like a big like haha punchline? Like I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I felt like a punchline, just like, oh wow, look, this is a snappy way to end the movie, right? But at the end of the day, doesn't really make a lot of sense. But you know what? It works for the end of the movie. Um, I do like the one scene that we didn't talk about, where he is chasing her out in the hallways of this like really packed hotel, and everyone's like, "Wow, what a great publicity stunt!" And they're clapping for her running, saying "help" in a towel, half naked, and Joe Spinell chasing after her.
Yeah, they think it's a promotional deal.
Hmm. And then she's just getting chased for like ever.
um there's a couple other scenes I want to mention. So
Hmm.
there's one where like Joe Spinell puts Jana Bates's photos onto like a projector on a wall, and he's like really like creepily like caressing it, like oh,
Hmm.
like oh, I love touching that. But then like he starts like groping himself.
Yeah, yeah,
Like he rips off his shirt and just starts like massaging his chest and
yeah. I thought it was funny. I Joe there really is going the extra 9 miles because he is really touching his chest there. He also has a scene where he dresses up as like a woman at one point in like a really far away shot, like in a like
well,
a
he
green
yeah,
screen.
he looks like Liza Minnelli in Cabaret.
Yeah, yeah. Which he's really doing it all, man.
But I just yeah, those are the two scenes where I was saying I was like I think they're trying to make it creepy, but this is like more funny than it is creepy.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's why it rides a line. And according to Wikipedia, it is listed as a horror comedy. But it wasn't really like a laughed out loud funny movie. So I don't know. It's one of those. I feel like we've ran into this a couple times where it's like, is it a comedy or is it not? Like, is it supposed to be funny? And I think this one sometimes it's supposed to be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the like the ending, obviously that's like the comedy bit, but
Mhm.
like I said, like and maybe the drag it's supposed to be funny. It's because it's like, oh, man in drag, it's hilarious.
Yes, yeah.
And
I've seen Big
and
Mama's House.
well, I've seen Mrs. Doubtfire.
Oh, that's not as good.
No.
Mm-mm.
Um, but no, I do. I was just kind of like it. I just kept thinking the whole time, like, I don't know if this is trying to be funny or not. But it probably is supposed to be funny because it's trauma, and trauma definitely
Mhm.
is like I don't think they have too many straight up like serious movies. So um,
Yeah.
the other scene I want to talk about was the director of the movie Scream. So Wes Craven here. No,
Oh, yeah, Wes Craven, yeah.
Joe Spinell. Like apparently, like he hates horror movies, but he like keeps talking about how he wants to make a horror movie.
Yeah,
And
I thought that was so weird.
I don't understand, but like I didn't understand that part, but because he goes and watches the movie Scream and he gets really grossed out watching it. And there's a scene too. He's just like buying all these concessions
From
and
like the
like
concession lady in the walkway.
yeah, and he's just stuffing his face during the movie.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because it's like the scene of like an old lady like
Getting like
stabbing and mutilating this guy in the street, and I don't
yeah.
understand. I just because I guess that's how the movie opens from the
Yeah.
movie, and
Yeah.
he starts choking on the popcorn. But anyway,
Yeah, well, see,
uh,
that's what's weird. The way it matches with the very first scene of the movie is him watching a horror movie, and he's sitting there sweating, like shaking, like it's the best thing he's seen. And the people behind him go, "Creep."
yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, he runs into the director and he tells him like, you're disgusting. Like I hated that movie. That was like the grossest thing I've ever seen. And
Mhm.
the director's like, oh, you're a freaking weirdo. But
Mhm.
anyway, the director like takes somebody out on a date,
Mhm.
and because they're like, oh well, we'll get you out of here. Don't worry. Like because it's like him and his girlfriend or whatever, and she wants to leave because she's freaked out by all the killings. And
Mm.
say, all right, well, we'll leave tomorrow, but I want to take you to this special place. And even before the killer shows up, it's like this really weird, like creepy date where he takes her
Yeah.
and like he's holding a knife and she's like, what are you gonna do with that knife? He's like, what? You scared that I'm holding this knife type of I'm like, what is this dude's problem? Like,
Yeah, and it's not like it's almost like he was setting up her getting murdered. Like that's what he wanted, but no, he was just like being a weirdo. Like,
or
oh no, close your eyes and sit here on this bench while I leave you alone here at night.
yeah, like that part I didn't understand either. I'm like, is this guy supposed to be like a weird guy? But yeah, he gets killed. So,
Hmm.
um, but yeah, I like that, and what the last part too about the movie, like you said with the joint scene is, he's like, all right, well, I was like, well, mom, that was the last horror movie I'm ever gonna do. He's like, I got a great idea, me, Jen, the two of us in outer space together.
Hmm. Yeah. And do you think you got it done?
Yeah, I think so. Wait, so does that mean like was Jana cooperating at the at the
I don't know, because I mean he got it made. He left France. He's back in New York. So I mean that means he didn't get charged, right? Unless it's been like years later.
like unless he just ran away, like he just took it and just like he's
I
on the
guess
run.
so. He made sure to get his film processed and everything, and now he's gonna sell it. Um,
I think it'll sell well.
we watched it, right?
Well, yeah, we did.
Yeah.
That was his was the last horror movie because he said that was the last horror movie.
Exactly. And we get this really interesting documentary about everything that happened.
Yeah, that's why it was a documentary.
Yeah, exactly. Uh, but anyway,
Uh, I would give it a recommend. I liked it.
no, me too. I thought it was a really neat movie. It was silly, and if you like movies, it's just really cool to see the background. It's one of the movies where like the setting I think really helps make the movie a lot.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's just totally interesting to watch. Like I said, not acting is pretty weak though. I mean, for the other cast, I mean, Joe Spinell turns in a halfway decent performance, but
Hmm.
overall, it's a pretty good movie.
Yeah. Well, that wraps it up for this one, though. Ryan, what are we going to be covering on Thursday?
Well, Nathan, we've had our fun. I mean, I every time we do a podcast, I always say boys' night out.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
That's I. Anyone asks me what I'm doing on Thursday, I say boys'
Boys'
night
night
out.
out.
But you know what? I know we have some female listeners out there. All three, four, two,
Yeah.
at
2%.
least two, at least two. But anyway, this Thursday it's going to be girls' night out,
Well, I'm excited for that. I don't even know if we can touch upon that,
and that movie is streaming over on the Arrow streaming service.
which I know everybody out there has, right?
You should. It's actually legitimately, it's a pretty fun service.
It's great. It does have a lot of movies that you can't get many other places. But
Yes.
if you want to send us an email, you can email us at driveanddoublepodcast@gmail.com. You can X at us as long as it's not paid for over at DIDF Pod. But until next time.
Next time.
Saturday.